Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about the new vacuum system that I just put in my shop. Before we get to that though, I wanted to talk about an email or a comment that I got from somebody on the pergola video that I posted. Built a pergola, kind of showed a different way to attach the 45 braces to the posts. And this guy by the name of Louie out of Saxe, Texas was going to help his neighbor build his pergola. And he emailed me asking questions about how to make those notches and how to make the jig for the notches to put in the posts. And we were going back and forth. I asked him to keep me updated on the progress, send pictures and everything, that I'd throw him in a video. So here is that information, here are those pictures. Once again, this was Louie, the guy from Saxe, assisted his neighbor, did the carpentry stuff. The pergola is 13 feet wide, 11 feet deep, and it's got a fireplace, a pizza oven, and a big green egg smoker that goes in to the left. One of the things that Louie did ask me to mention as well was just a lesson about planning ahead. He had told me that his neighbor didn't really plan ahead for everything that was going to go underneath the pergola, didn't make all the necessary adjustments and details for things, added the big green egg smoker later, and that added some depth to that whole brick assembly right there. And so basically front to back, those bricks were about 45 inches is what Louie had told me. And out of that 11-foot depth front to back, you only have 7 feet of usable space. Now factor in that you can't sit up right next against the oven or smoker. You probably have to have a foot or two because it's going to get really hot. And so you got to move away. So now let's say you only have 6 feet or 5 feet left to sit under the pergola with the table and chairs. That's really not much room, considering, I mean, just even a small table is 3 feet wide, or 3 feet deep, I guess, if you're putting it up lengthwise. So real important to plan ahead. Bricks, know exactly what you're going to put under a pergola, or know exactly what you need to put anywhere. Me, for cabinets, first time I built cabinets, I had to make some adjustments because I didn't plan well enough in advance with drawers in a corner and stuff like that. So real important, plan ahead. And lastly, it's super cool to have somebody ask me questions about maybe a certain technique that I used. So special shout out to Louie for keeping me in contact and everything like that, and then also sending me pictures of the beginning stages or the middle stages of the pergola, and then the almost final assembly. So now let's go ahead and get to that vacuum system. First off, a couple things before I talk about the vacuum system and the pipes and everything like that. One, excuse the shakiness of the video. I'm walking around with a little hand stick type thing that's kind of awkward and it's hard to hold. Two, dust collection. If you can, get you one of these guys. It's just an air filtration system box type thing that you can throw up on your ceiling, on a wall. This one is by Ridgid. It is the 62-100. It's the bigger version that they have. I want to say it was around 350 bucks on sale at Woodcraft. Probably could have gone a little cheaper somewhere else, but that's okay. I wanted it pretty soon. Basically, it's got an outer filter right there, and that goes up to like 5 microns, and you can just replace those. It's a 12 by 24 by 1 air filter, and then on the inside, it's kind of like a weird bag type air filter that filters down to 1 micron. And then over on the other side, you've got high, medium, and low power, and then you can run it for 2 hours, 4 hours, or 8 hours, or just flat out have it on. So those things are really stinking awesome. And let's go ahead and get to the vacuum system. All right, here we go. So we got our big Ridgid vacuum system here that branches out. I told you that there are 2 Ys. What I wanted to do is have 2 blast gates on each of those Ys, or I'm sorry, 1 blast gate on each Y, so that way I could control which line it was going to, because I got a lot of branches here and I don't want to put suction on one line if I'm going to be using the other line. Okay, let's go to this cyclone right now. That blast gate's open, goes from the cyclone into the vacuum. We go around, and then this guy has a few drops. So first off, I sealed everything with some caulk. I think it's Lexol Flex Seal or something. It's clear. It's working out pretty well, but there's a lot of connections over here, so let's go along. So we got this line right here, drops down. I did have my lathe here earlier. That's probably a poor spot for it. I might do something different with that later. If I get a bandsaw, I might put it there and have some kind of extension. Not quite sure yet, but we got the blast gate closed on it. Then we branch up, we go up to the ceiling. And then way long run, I don't like this one, but it's kind of what my option was, because I have this enormous 8-foot light here, and my mobile workbench is sitting in the middle of the room, and I didn't want the vacuum to come down on the router table side because that's too inhibiting, so I had it come down on the planer side. So we come all the way up over here, do a little 45 elbow, and then come down with some flex hose so I can move the workbench. And then I got a 90-degree assembly here, and I've got one Y coming off to the planer. That's working really, really well. I've got a Y coming off with another blast gate over here to the table saw. That one's working all right. My table saw spits out a lot of dust out of the side, so I'm gonna have to adapt that one. And then after that, we have one more blast gate that splits off into 2 runs for the router table. One that comes up underneath the workbench, and then one that goes into this box. Let's detail them real quick. Let's go to the box first. I've got the router enclosed in this box, and this puppy opens up and it's sealed up with some of that foam window sealer right there on the door, and keeps quite a bit of dust in. So that guy comes out right here kind of close to the bottom and gets almost all the dust. I know there's a lot right there, a lot of sawdust, a lot of chips and everything. One day in the future I might build a little incline or just put a piece of wood that swoops down so that way more of it goes over here to the port. Honestly, as long as it's contained, I really don't care. Then the other portion of the router table, I'm gonna open up this little drawer because there's a hose in here that I use. The other portion of this dust collection for the router table pops up right here in the workbench. This wing nut is below level, so I can still rip big pieces of wood on the table saw without dinging anything or scratching anything. All I do is just pick this guy up, just a little rubber seal cap for I want to say, gosh, a 2-inch PVC pipe. It happened to fit just perfectly into this little plastic coupling that I got from Woodcraft. So I attach this guy in here. Let's see if we can get it stuck enough, and then throw it into the back of the fence. So anytime that I'm running a bit on the router and I've got the blast gate open, so dust is getting sucked out of this hose and underneath the bottom, I literally have no sawdust or chips that comes out of the router. Obviously the fence would be moved up a little bit more, but man, it does a freaking phenomenal job with collecting dust when I've got it hooked up to the fence and then in the box right there. Okay, so there's that line. I know there's a lot of connections there that a lot of people are probably going to give me crap about. A lot of bends, a lot of different connections, couplings, all sorts of things like that. You know what? That's okay. I did what I did what I could with what I had, and this worked out for me. If anybody's got a comment on how to make that part better, let me know. Of course, I would have loved to take it from the vacuum system in that corner, just kind of over on the ceiling, drop down to here, and that'd be great. But like I said before, router table, that would kind of get in the way. All right, so there's line number 1. That all goes into the cyclone because we got the planer, the router, and then the table saw creates pretty much most of the biggest chips. So that all goes to the cyclone, and it's all in one place on the workbench. The other line comes on up over here. I probably need to drop this part of PVC down a little bit so that way I don't have such a big turn in that flex hose, but that's all right. Goes up all the way into the corner. Got a sweeping 90 there. Goes all the way in the ceiling because I didn't want to interfere with any wood storage or anything like that. And then we come up to the ceiling. Forgive the light. Let's turn that guy off. There we go. Okay, comes up to the ceiling and then drops down a few places. So this is kind of crazy. It was just kind of awkward. One drop, this first one, I needed to go to the miter saw. This guy in the previous house created the most sawdust, and so I built a crazy box around it. I know most people have like cabinets and whatnot. I'll get to that later. But by making this box and making a couple pieces removable when I need to change the angle of the saw has done a huge, or I guess has been a huge help. Still get a little bit of sawdust around the sides. Then again, I haven't sealed anything up over there too much, but it definitely does a much better job of containing. All right, so there's that first drop right there. Second drop comes down, And then I have it split into two. One goes straight to the floor, so that way I can just sweep any dust and chips and everything that's on the floor into that line, and then that just goes straight into the bag, and that's a heck of a lot better than using a dustpan all over the place, or just spraying the compressor, spraying everything out with wind. Alright, that guy's awesome. If you have a chance and you can do a drop like that, do it, because it's beneficial. Okay. Now before that guy, we've got one last line and blast gate. This guy comes all the way over here, kind of across this window that I boarded up because I couldn't interfere with that garage slide or the garage track. So we just come over here and then we step down to a 2.5 inch hose that's 8 feet long, I believe. So that way I can get pretty much anywhere on this 8-foot workbench that I built. All right, I can kind of get some of the stuff on the floor down here, anything like right there on that shelf, but other than that, I don't really need anything, because then I can use the broom for the floor to take it over to that floor drop. And there's my dust collection system in the new shop. So far I've been running every single line and everything works out great. Biggest trouble or biggest problem I'm having with the dust collection right now is the table saw, because it's a job site saw that I put in my mobile workbench. It's really open, and so there's a lot of places for the sawdust to go other than that little chute that connects to the hose. So I'm going to have to enclose that at one point, put some walls around it, figure something out so that way the table saw doesn't create the most sawdust. Right now the sliding miter saw is doing a phenomenal job inside the box. Router table, like I said before, is doing the absolute best job. I just about have nothing come out of there when I'm cutting on the router table. Planer does a pretty good job. The only stuff that comes out is actually through the cracks in the blast gate. And then if I'm, I guess, planing boards on their sides that are less than 6 inches, some falls down because it's, doesn't really have good suction down at the bottom. But other than that, everything is working out great. The filtration system that's on the ceiling is doing a great job. I'm having to change or blow out those filters all the time because of how much dust it is collecting. It's doing a great job. So now I actually feel comfortable inside the shop to where I don't have a ton of stuff floating around, to where anytime I come in the shop I have to have a dust mask on. So that's really, really great. If you have the chance to upgrade your vacuum system, go ahead and do it. I did mine and I'm loving every single bit of it. It is making things more efficient now that I don't have to change the vacuum or the shop vac on each of the individual tools on the workbench or anything that I'm working on, and I don't have to take the miter saw outside anymore, so that is nice. Any comments or questions or concerns that you guys have for any of this setup, please let me know. Leave me a comment in the comment section. I'd love to hear your feedback, see the positives and negatives that you guys think. First off, I know that some people are going to call me out for using PVC. I should have used the other thin stuff. I can't remember what it's called, but apparently that's cheaper. That's cool. This I had more readily available, so I just went ahead and went with PVC. Another thing I have a feeling I'll get called out on are all the connections that I did. Yeah, I know it was a lot. It's a heck of a lot of pieces, but that's just kind of what I did to make everything work. The main ports and everything, like the rubber couplings, are 3 inches and whatnot, and the PVC is 3-inch PVC because the outer diameter of 3-inch PVC is actually like 3.5 or 3 3/8, I can't remember. That's much easier to step a rubber coupling down to that than it is to take a rubber coupling up to 4 3/8 inches diameter, which is what a 4-inch PVC pipe is. Once again, I know if I would have gone with the other thinner walled pipe, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal, but I went with 3-inch, and that's all good. So pretty much components and everything, blast gates, they're the aluminum blast gates. I got it at Woodcraft. You can get them at Rockler as well. They were like $12. You know what? I think I still have the sticker on. $13.99, but they were on sale for about $12. I got quite a bit of them, but I would recommend the aluminum blast gates over the plastic ones, just if you're going to use them and abuse them all the time. Those plastic ones, I had a bad experience with them. I had like 2 or 3 of the 4 that I had break, and I had to kind of melt them back together. So 4-inch blast gates, I got 3-inch rubber couplings, 3-inch PVC, 3-inch Ys, everything like that. And then I got the 4-inch flex hose from Woodcraft or Rockler as well. So that flex hose just kind of went down. I actually used a PVC coupling, 3-inch PVC coupling, which the diameter of that guy was actually right at 4 inches, and so that worked out well. My apologies for the long video that this is going to be. However, a lot of details that went into it. So like I said before, if you guys have any concerns or questions, comments, let me know. And thank you guys for checking in. Keep in tune for a couple of videos that I'm posting around the same time as well. First one is mobile workbench upgrades. This is the second one that I'm taping right now is the vacuum system, and the third one I'm going to do a little shop tour just to kind of show the things that are being efficient in my shop right now that I didn't have before or that I wasn't able to do before. So y'all take care, and I'll catch up with you in a bit. I've got the outfeed table and dust collection support nearly complete. I just have to finish it, put some wax on the top. So let's go ahead and take a look. Please forgive the shakiness. So here we go. We've got 3/4 MDF and 3/4 plywood right here. I've got a 2x4 support running the length to kind of keep it a little bit straight. So as you can see, it is pretty dang straight, so that's good. And then I've got these angled 2x4s that are going down to the rest of the workbench. I had to be a little bit fancy on these last two that didn't have any wood to screw to. So I had to notch them so that way they could support on the 1x3 steel tubing, and then throw some self-tapping screws in the end so that way they could attach to the bottom. And then I also got these horizontal braces, one going from the router table over to this piece, and then they're over here connected to the rest of the workbench right here. So I've got the opening behind the planer, opening behind the table saw, and then opening for the router table. Right over here I've got this little, I want to say like 4-inch chunk right here with no 2x4 support. I didn't want to put this all the way at the edge because this is where the main part of the tubing is going to be going. It's going to be hung down just a little bit or so. I'm not quite sure exactly how far, but we're going to get it hung down just a little bit so that way it's out of the way of the 2x4, because if I put the 2x4 all the way over here to the edge and took up those 3.5 inches, I would have had to make this whole tabletop, the whole outfeed table, another 4 inches wider because of the tubing assembly that goes behind the planer and the table saw. It kind of sticks out quite a bit, so I had to go off of the planer, and that chunk is pretty big. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that's going to look like. Alright, so there's that tubing section. It's probably going to sit somewhere right around here in relationship to the table. I've got this combination Y attached to a piece of PVC, then a rubber coupling, then the blast gate. Then we've got the flex hose, and then another piece of PVC. And, excuse me. And the flex hose, and then another piece of PVC into a rubber coupling that goes into the back of the planer. So lots of pieces here, and then we will sync it up with that guy coming from the ceiling sometime soon. And we'll sync it up with that guy coming from the ceiling sometime soon.